Oh man, I could have wished that there are some constellations in the outer space, but still it wasn't though. Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom for those who lived in Japan. So last time we actually did tackle through the first world in this game by the forms of the grassland, and able to actually get ourselves 6 of one of those heart stars, and now we're going to be continue on and also manage to beat the likes of Wispy Woods, not to mention. And for this episode is that we're going to be moving on to the second world of the game by the forms of Ripple Field. Does that name kind of feels a bit familiar to you? Well, it's the exact same level name as how it does in new forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, in new forms of the third world back in the day. But now we ended up in the second world in new forms of Ripple Field. So that's a little bit odd and interesting order when it comes to able to actually notice something there's a little bit differency when it comes to names like this. So, but that's as far as I can think about this. So, anyway, so the level objective in this particular level is the fact that we need to able to actually just use not only the actual cleaning ability, but also we need to get ourselves the third and new and the final animal body that we can get. Well, I haven't really shown off Cody out yet because of even then though we've only barely see her. Well, at least I don't know if it's him or her. Even then, I do apologize of how the fact that I have not known any of the genders with all these with all these animal genders in mind though. So that I guess. So yeah, we do need, you know, the cleaning copy ability, and especially noticeable with the animal companion, but in forms of, I'm assuming, Pitch, because even then, that's his name, by the way, but in forms of that particular bird right there, his name was actually Pitch. So even then, what's unique about this particular animal body there is the fact that you can able to actually do a somewhat of a hovering ability, kind of like Code does, except you can't fly anywhere. So even then, it's basically act out like Tails, in new forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, or Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, or even especially noticeable with the co-op system in the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2, and especially noticeable in Sonic Mania, because even then though you can able to actually fly for a few seconds, but you will get lowered down for quite a few seconds notice, so you just have to stay sharp until you don't let Mr. Pitch the Bird manage to able to actually run out of altitude for a moment there. So, anyway though, so here's the main gimmick about this particular mission objective in this level's concern, is the fact that this is the reason why we need not only Pitch the Bird, but also body forms of the cleaning ability, which by the way, we need to water that actual flower over there, and we need to able to water the, I'm assuming the amount of these blue flowers I can assume of, is the fact that we need to water about 6 of them, so even then that way we should able to actually just manage to able to get ourselves the you know, the heart star and stuff like that. So, speaking of the actual name of that particular task, her name was actually forms of, I can't pronounce that very well, so I must apologize for this, Camry Banner, which, again, I do apologize for the mispronunciation with that particular name, so I incredibly must admit that I might as well budge there though anyway. So yeah, be sure to be able to be very careful not to kill those either, because if you accidentally killed one, then you're pretty much going to be guaranteed you get yourselves mission failed. So even then though, if you want to able to restart the mission, like just simply X out the level, or just simply put, I don't know what this is usually can be. Now, unlike the likes of, you know, Kirby's Adventure, but in forms of the secret switches, and especially noticeable the rainbow drops in Kirby's Dream Land 2, if you manage to complete any of the tasks, for some reason, you cannot able to go back to the world map while simply just navigating with the pause menu. No, you have to complete the level first before you're able to get yourselves a, you know, the heart stars to begin with. Because as a result, if you manage to able to accidentally exit out the level without even collecting the heart star to begin with, I'm pretty sure I can guarantee about the fact that we can able to actually guaranteed that you have to go back into the actual mission itself again. So even though that's one thing I need to point out. So I seem to slowly dying at the moment, so even then I need to be very careful around here, especially noticeable like enemies like these fishies right there. And let's see if I can just, oh no, oh, I was too late for that. So Ah, that's terrific. First death of this playthrough. It's always the first death of the playthrough that we've always encountered by the forms of any other Kirby games at this point, because, well, ever since the very beginning. So, oh well, I guess I'm also able to actually keep that in the video, I suppose, but it still sucks though. So anyways though, I think that pretty much does it for this level for the time being, because not only with the mission objective is being fully completed, but it's also because of the fact that we can now able to, presumably we're going to be moving on to the next level. So, now, with the forms of the mission types, as far as I've mentioned this earlier, will go, basically that's how this will go, is by the forms of each types in each mission. I could more conservatively is how the fact that every single first missions is always have to be flowery based, and then second missions is the fact that we need to able to do these kinds of tasks by the forms of not only the Kirby ability requirements, but also summoning animal buddies that you do need to get, and the third levels always have to bring up with mini games. And especially noticeable by the forms of the fourth levels always have to be find an object and then able to bring it back to the NPC players. And the fifth mission is always requires, or the fifth levels always have to be bringing your animal buddy with you at the very end of a level. And finally, level 6 is probably a combination of pretty much finding every single pieces, or to be more specifically, some individual parts. Although some of these level 6 missions tasks can get a little bit more different by the looks of all things, but we'll get to those until we get to the future worlds. So anyway though, so today was actually forms of the 12th of April 2018, as you expected from any other years at this point in time. Recently, I just had quite a few things to talk about for this point, folks. I haven't mentioned about this during the likes of the last video because I was busy talking about the game itself. But apparently, I was really excited about this actually, by the forms of 2 days ago actually. First off is the fact that not only Mega Man X Collection is going to be coming out, but it does have the final name, not to mention that. It's now going to call it Mega Man X Legacy Collection, very much like how it does it in Mega Man Legacy Collection ever since 2015 and 17, for in both, you know, Mega Man Legacy Collections 1 and 2. But the difference is here is the fact that it's most likely focusing on Mega Man X series instead of like the classical ones. And I'm gonna say that I was really excited until the actual 2 compilations is gonna be coming out, because yes, I was true for told is that Mega Man X Legacy Collection once again retains itself 2 collections in a separate packs, which makes perfect sense because even though much like how it does it in the forms of, you know how it does it in Mega Man Legacy Collections 1 and 2, except the fact that in the first collection always contains 8-bit renditions, and then the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, normally you can able to get yourselves the final 4 games of classic Mega Man games. So yeah, the mission objective in this mission, by the way, is the fact that we need to get ourselves Kind first, and also the Paracel copy ability, because if you do that, then you would able to accomplish this particular task. So even I know something that's worth mentioning for this part. And by the way, the NPC character on this particular level is, I think it was actually called Bankese, which even though, again, I must apologize for the fact that the mispronunciation of those specific NPC players, but even though I still can't deny by that. So anyway, and I think we're pretty much at the very end of this level actually. I think this is probably the shortest level throughout so far. But again, the majority of the game is even a lot more longer compared to how it does it in Kirby's Adventure, or no, not Kirby's Adventure to be more specifically, but Kirby's Dream Land 1 and especially Kirby's Dream Land 2. So anyways, now we move on to the 3rd level, and we're gonna have to tackle through a minigame. So basically it wasn't until when we actually get to the future portions of this level though, so let's get to it. So yeah, in the defense though, oh, that's actually very cute looking right there. You see that Waddle Dee is actually pedaling that little particular boat right there? I'm considering this might be something to do with it's just me, but I'm pretty sure he might as well able to be practicing by the forms of, I'm presuming, Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, whenever that comes until 2 years time. I don't know about you, but anyway. So yeah, as far as for that particular Mega Man X Legacy Collection goes, that, you know, the first collection contains Mega Man X 1, 2, 3, and 4. On the other hand, though, for the second collection contains the second half, but in forms of, you know, X5, X6, X7, and finally 8. Could it possibly, it might actually bring us into Mega Man X9 eventually? Well, we don't know when, because even though at the moment they're going to be concentrating on developing, but in forms of Mega Man 11, so even though I would appreciate of how the fact that that game will come out in June at the very end of this year or sometime, but even though if it's delayed until 2019, I was like, I might be okay with that, but even though it's one of those things that you do need to be realized how the fact that some of these annoying sharks, by the way, those of you might have missed it, is that oh yeah, these particular enemies does remind me of something related to these little muncher choppers, but in forms of not only for the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, but also Sonic Mania enemies ever since during the likes of Hydro City Zone, is the fact that once you get eaten by these little fish munchers, he'll actually suck up your rest of your rings out. So anyways, here we go with this particular minigame right there. Basically, we need to keep an eye out with that particular NPC character. I'm assuming his name was, according to the actual Wikipedia, is Eli or Elio. I think that's what his name was. But basically, what you have to do is basically just have to concentrate on the screen to see where he is. Don't pick the Gordos though, because if you manage to pick any of the Gordos, then you're pretty much going to be able to fail this mission entirely, and able to not get a chance to get yourselves a hard star. So, there we go, we've managed to get all 3 of them correct. So, there you go then. So, for the most part though, some of these minigames aren't too bad for the most part, but there was one coming up that's usually kind of feels a little bit more difficult, I'm going to say that until now. But anyways though, let's go ahead and just swim quite awkwardly, but in forms of Rick the Hamster, but we'll just have to cope with this, I suppose. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about the plot of this game, actually, but before we move on. Oh, actually, before I do anything else, great, auto-scoring level. Or in this case, an auto-scoring section. Now, thankfully though, unlike the likes of how it does in new forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, and especially noticeable in Kirby Superstar, in the Great Cave Offensive most likely, normally in the other 2 games that, the auto-scoring segments can get really continuous for the most part, but thankfully though, Kirby's Dream Land 3 did manage to fix that tradition, until you get to the very end. Like, you can definitely tell why when we actually get into that particular ending sequence of that particular underwater rapid section. That if you go towards right over there, you're expecting to think that you might get crushed eventually. Well, it turns out you're perfectly safe this time around though, because even though the screen stops scrolling, if you manage to get to the ending portion of the actual rooms, or the levels I should say, then thankfully though you don't have to worry about that this time around though, which thankfully they managed to fix that tradition right there this time. So anyway, since we've actually successful this minigame, that means we get ourselves the 3rd Star Hearts, or in this case, Heart Stars, if you will. So anyways, let's go ahead and just get ourselves our rewards there. I don't mind a big star though, because that just gives me 5 star points. Could hoping for a health points or 1-up, but I couldn't care less that much. So anyways, here we go with the next level right there. And this one we do need to able to find something, but in forms of the finding any objects around here. So I think the copy ability requirement is in forms of most likely Needle, because we do need Needle, because you can definitely tell why when we get to that. So let's go ahead and just you know, get out of Rick the Hamster for now, and we can able to actually just concentrate the actual level itself. So everything else checks out there for the most part though, as far as you might as well think about it, but hey, at least it's kind of a cool thing. Oh yeah, I should probably mention about the NPC character for that particular level, by the way. I know it sounds a little bit of a weird name, but it's usually calls it Gamel Gil and Kogura Mankilo, which again I do apologize for that. But even then, that's only because of how the fact that I wasn't really pronunciation for those kinds of names very well. I did not meant to activate GUI right there. But I guess I might as well show him off in this particular level alone. But basically, if you manage to able to press the A button differently this time around though, it's the fact that you can able to, I'm pursuing, much like how it does in new forms of Kirby Superstar, in this case Kirby's Fun Pack in Europe, you can able to actually send out your partner companion with you, but in forms of the GUI. So yeah, GUI is pretty interesting, but in forms of the introduction of this guy, at least until when it gets to Kirby Star Allies, presuming there's actually a free update this time, which it did already happen, but it forms about almost a month ago now. But even then though, he actually acts like as a second player in this game. By the way, there's actually a hidden door right over there, even though you can't clearly see it, but let's see if you're able to actually get yourselves a electricity copy ability with Kind, which I do need to able to actually equip him, by the way, because when it gets to the underwater segments like that, it will be very, very handy by the forms of the underwater segments. Well, not so bad in the air this time around though, so let's see what's in here. It's not worth anything in here, unfortunately though, because I probably need to keep Needle for the time being until when we get to the later portions of the game. Well, in this case, in this level though, anyway. Oh, great! Another auto-scrolling section there. So, if I messed up just once, then I'm also able to actually restart the entire... Well, not restart the entire level, because even then though, I don't think Animal Buddy, well in this case, the Animal Friends, doesn't require you to able to actually get ourselves the mission requirements, even then that's the only good thing. So head to this door on the left, because even then though, if you manage to find it, not only do you actually come across into a room of Goldos right there, but also with the forms of the mini stars themselves. And hopefully we manage to get into another mini boss, which I'm assuming this is actually the returning mini boss in the forms of Kirby Stream Land 2, by the forms of Captain Stitch. Which, much like how it does it for last time, is that, actually, let's go ahead and disable, Kind of Fish for now. So let's go ahead and deal with, most of the damage on Captain Stitch, and hopefully we can kick his butt in no time, assuming if he actually disables the spikes. So, there we go, that deals up with him. And there's a good reason why we do need Needle to begin with, because this room will require a Needle copy ability. And then, there we go, we've managed to obtain something. So even though, I'm assuming this is more likely based off from a Frog NPC character that we bump into. But I'm assuming that his father lost his son. So even though that hopefully we've got our son back. And now we need to deliver his son back into its father. Which even though that might be sounds a little bit more, well, obscure way to able to actually just to see how this will turn out. But anyway, let's go ahead and just finish the level as normal. So yeah, with Guri, he shares the exact same health amount as you do, but except the fact that you do have 4 health points instead of the usual 5. Because even though that, because of that though, since we're in a cooperative particular mode at the moment, although you can't able to exit out co-op mode if you manage to able to actually disable your copy ability, or even the actual purpose of pretty much for the exact same premise for that. I wasn't ready for that yet, Guri. And talk about that. There you go then. Well, it's alright though, actually, because he already grabs himself this worthless particular reward after doing so. So anyways. Here we go with the next level right there, but in forms of, well, level 5. And this actually requires yet another animal friends that we do need to acquire to able to actually access this mission. But even though that, I'm assuming we need Pitch the Bird, much like how it does in the first level in Rebel Field, except rather than just watering some flowers, unlike how it does it for last time, instead we can able to actually find Pitch the Bird, and able to actually finish the level in the process. One thing I have to admit though, right away though, is that some of these missions like this are probably one of my least favorite parts about the game for me, because not only do you have to do it within just only one run through, with that particular animal buddy you do need to require it, but it's also because of how the fact that if you screw up at least once, specifically if you actually proceed to the next room or something, you cannot able to actually just to try that again, or in this case you cannot able to actually get them back unless if you actually proceed to the next room, because unlike the ones of how it does it in forms of the Great Cave Offensive, but in forms of Kirby Superstar or something like that, one of those doors will actually become linear this time, which even though it's nothing like backtracking heavy, unlike how it does it for last time, so that's a little bit more hypocrite around there. But yeah, at least we can actually get away with it. Oh yeah, the NPC character we might actually bump into is actually Pitch Mama, which I'm assuming this is more likely something related to his mother, by the way. Which I'm assuming this might be something to deal with that little hint. And of course, I couldn't able to actually fit Kind almost right near to the gap though, which even though actually, kind of thinking about it though, I've made that simple mistake though actually, because I probably should need Kind to be able to actually get to Pitch the Bird, because even then though, that way it will actually gives me the opportunity to able to actually deliver, you know, Pitch the Bird all the way up to its mother, which even though I've managed to done that by complete accident though, so I apologize if that, I don't know if it's just you guys, but I'm presuming this might be a semi-blind playthrough of this game, unfortunately. Because I would normally try to able to actually go through, like, well, obviously, much like how it does in the forms of, you know, Kirby's Adventure, and especially noticeable in Kirby's Dream Land 2, and even Kirby's Superstar in his Super Nintendo, this might actually be the 100% completion of this Let's Play, so, speaking of a 100% completion, as far as I promised you guys about this earlier ago, yeah, I can't able to go over there, because we do need Kind to actually get to there, which, from the looks of it, though, we do need, you know, Kind to swim all the way from here for that, you know, water current, but unfortunately I don't have any chances to go to there, so that's totally my fault there, so even though I wasn't clearly noticed what I was doing right there, because I have no idea how do I able to do this, though, but I digress. So anyways, though, in order to actually get a 100% completion of this game this time around, though, is the fact that, unlike how it does in new forms of, well, in new forms of Kirby's Dream Land, it's just basically we need to get to the very end of the game, beat King Dedede, and that's about it. And, because, you know, it's the first game in the series after all. And, in Kirby's Adventure, all you need to get 100% on is the forms of not only completing the actual main levels themselves, but also you need to actually access those secret switches, until you're able to get yourselves the missing parts of the hub world. And Kirby's Dream Land 2 is to obtain every single rainbow drops, and especially noticeable by the forms of finding Choo Choo in one of those rare rewards, based off of while you defeat the mini bosses, as far as if you manage to get yourself an animal buddy with you. But and especially noticeable in Kirby Superstar is the fact that we need to able to obviously complete all 7 of these main games, excluding the likes of Milky Way Wishes to get every single Kirby ability, and especially noticeable with the forms of the Great Cave Offensive to grab all 60 of these treasures. And I think that's about it for the most part, and besides the extra game by the forms of the arena, which is the forms of the boss arena mode. And I think that's about it, obviously, so even though, to get 100% in this game this time around, though, is the fact that, actually, I'll get into more details onto that, but this is the music that has been playing if you did not successfully manage to able to do with this mission. So, unfortunately for you, missus, I couldn't get the, Pitch the Virgin during time, which I'm also able to actually revisit to this level again. Hopefully, I don't think this level wasn't as long as it used to be, but even then, no, we've got to the next level though, but we're not gonna get into this next level after we deal with this mission first. So let's go ahead and try this again. I know this video is kind of long though, because of how the fact that there's gonna be a lot of backtracking heavy moments just here and there, but I'm not exactly sure I'm as well able to actually do one world with 2 split parts, but even then, we'll find out and see what happens there, so anyway. Stupid sharks. So anyways though, in order to get 100% in this game this time around though, is the fact that not only do you able to actually collect every single heart stars during the likes of the story mode, but also you do need to able to tackle through not only one game mode, or one extra mode I should say, but also 3 extra modes, which even I know if you manage to get everything in your forms of the main story, basically you get yourselves 97%. Which you might be thinking it might be seems fine enough, but it turns out there's still more to it when it comes to 100%ing it, which by the looks of all things, spoiler alert by the way, you do need to get to tackle through not only the boss rush, but also the minigame rush, and even the actual goal game rush. So even then, that gives us a grand total of, well, a lot of busy work. So, this is going to be the most difficult 100% requirements in the forms of the entirety of the Kirby series, in my opinion, because, not only because of the lack of, you know, the blocking system, but in forms of ever since Kirby Superstar, but also because of how the fact that, well, you can still use your, co-op companion with you, but it's just how the fact that it doesn't do anything besides just eats too many enemies too many times, which I must confess about that right about now. So anyways though, let's go ahead and just see what's in here. I probably should not able to defeat that enemy right there. Oh yeah, by the way, I've actually, you know the first attempt on this level, I actually did this in the wrong method. You're actually supposed to get not only 1, but 2 Kirby abilities on that particular section, which are both fire and stone/rock. Which by the looks of that particular represents that symbol. This means we need to get fire first before we're able to burn out these fire blocks, but also we need to get ourselves a stone, or in this case rock Kirby ability, for another half. So even though after when you deal with that multitude of tasking, then you would able to actually accomplish with that just well enough. So incredibly, I must admit though, I must have apologized if I had the simple mistake of that particular mission task, even though it was my semi-blind playthrough of this. But even though that I did manage to play this before, but I'm pretty sure that I wasn't paying too much attention these days, but it forms off because I was concentrating on something else. So must confess right about now. But anyways though, since we actually, oh, that was really cheap right there. Let's go ahead and leave Kind right behind, and we'll go ahead and go after the rock Kirby ability for now, until we're able to actually just, guarantee that we might actually just, destroy the last 3, blocks. So, need to know what's in here though, or it's just a, another electricity enemy right there. Or the plasma enemy, I should say. So yeah, when it comes to the release dates of the forms of Mega Man X Legacy Collection, is that I'm presuming it's going to be releasing it to at some point in the 24th of July, at least specifically the international versions. And I believe the Japanese version will release it to at some point in 2 days later than the likes of the international versions, I think. But we'll see what happens there. Oh my god, I'm almost going to get hit right there. But at least we've managed to bypass that particular plasma enemy as such. So yeah, for the most part, this mission objective is not too bad. It's just the fact that you need to actually pay attention for that particular method you're going to be doing with for first-time players. Because if you do not know what you're doing, be sure to able to go after not only fire, but also the stone/rock copy ability. Because if you've done that, then you would able to actually accomplish with this. So that's one thing that I should probably mention about this right from the start though. So let's go ahead and just swim easier now, and thanks to the maximum tomato that immediately restores my health, that way I can get myself my easy tracking. So kudos to the actual food supplies. So anyways, now we've actually find ourselves you know, Pitch the Bird now, so now let's go ahead and deliver him all the way to Pitch Mama. So hopefully we'll give him back to its mother, or in this case we'll get Mr. Pitch the Bird back into its mother. Kinda like how it does it in the forms of Bambi, where the forms of, you know, he was trying to able to actually desperate to see his mother. But unfortunately though, due to the saddest scene in the forms of the first film of Bambi, that her mother dies, which I must admit though, that was very emotional though, especially with that death scene. Well, at least the same thing for how it does it in Mufasa's death, that's for sure. But anyways, we're not going to talk about deaths for now, so anyways. Aside from that, there's not much else to really speak of, actually, because, well, I'm actually really excited for Mega Man X Legacy Collection at this point in time now. Well, there's only one exception I must confess right about now, is that a lot of people seem to complain about Mega Man X7 is considerably the worst Mega Man X game in the series, which I understand, because shifting to 2D to 3D perspective was absolutely horrendous idea by the forms of the Mega Man X game like that. But apart from that though, at least I can get ourselves a little bit more exploration by the forms of, well, it wasn't actually my first time I've ever going to be trying out the Mega Man X games, because you remember back in during the likes of Christmas 2017 unboxing video during about, I would classify for saying about almost a year ago now. Well, it might be a little bit sooner or later, but thanks to the Super Nintendo Classic Mini, managed to contain Mega Man X. So, specifically the first game in the series, kind of like how it does in the forms of NES Classic Mini. The only Mega Man game they actually contain on that particular built-in system is Mega Man 2, because a lot of people think that Mega Man 2 is the best game in the series. So, anyways, now we've got ourselves a hard star now, thanks to we actually managed to deliver Pitch the Bird back into its mother now. So, everything else should be just as well. Alright, so now we're done with that mission objective, not to mention with the actual level itself. And now let's go ahead and deal with the next level. In this case, the last level in Ripple Field. And the NPC companion, or the NPC character that is actually known as by the forms of that jigsaw puzzle piece guy. His name was HP, or in this case HB-002. A little bit of an odd coding there, but even then no, we'll just guarantee by that. So anyway, I believe the mission objective in this particular level this time around though is the fact that, well, you can definitely tell why when we actually get into the water section, because even though this will actually require us to able to accomplish that in the forms of, well, pretty much for the sake of this level specifically. So anyways, let's go ahead and destroy these star blocks before we're able to proceed on things. And, yeah, for the most part, though, everything else will be just as well as it's welcome. But even then, we'll can definitely tell why until when we actually just manage to get ourselves experience from this. So let's go ahead and just get ourselves our cleaning ability with, I don't know what that particular, you know, animal companion was though. But again, I do apologize for that point, folks, because normally I wasn't really memorizing when it comes to these actual, names themselves, obviously, for me though, because... Well, obviously, I was really used to about the fact that, well, I wasn't really that much else to speak of, so, oh god, we got ourselves this sequence there. If you manage to get into the wrong pathway, as you can see there, you have to actually go back onto that particular alcove of the cave, and then basically we need to actually find our way to, the real path, so even then, that's one of those things that makes it a little bit of a traumatizing at points, so anyways, when it comes to the, that particular, oh yeah, for that particular cat I already mentioned, I think his name is actually, Mako. Which even then though, that Mako might actually be a little bit more weird by the looks of that name, by the way. But even then though, that's the only entire impression of that particular animal friend's name was. But even then though, let's just, go ahead and continue onwards. I'm presuming we need to go down here, and I believe the last one, before you're able to continue with all things, I think it's gonna be... I don't know, the, fourth spot? Nah, it wasn't, shoot. And, to make matters even much more convenient though, it's the fact that you can't backtrack because these little green gooby stuff can be acted out as like cannons in this game this time around, as opposed to how it does in the forms of Kirby Superstar / Kirby's Fun Pack in Europe. Basically it acts like it's the exact same thing as of how it does it from, you know, the regular cannons. I think these particular guys will make a return in the forms of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, because you can definitely tell why until we get to the future points throughout. So, yeah, let's get to the main plot of this particular game, or the story of the game. This game takes place after the events of Kirby's Dream Land 2, because of how the fact that after restoring a piece of, you know, Dreamland, as far as every single piece of that, thanks to the Rainbow staff, or in this case the Rainbow Sword I should say, in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, basically what happens is though is the fact that one morning in Dreamland, thanks to Kirby and Gooey this time around, and the Dark Matter did manage to make a comeback, and even then though that he was planning to be able to actually conquer Dreamland again, which even then though, it might be exactly the same plot of how it does in the forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, but you can definitely tell why until then. So anyways, the level gimmick right here is the forms of this particular mission is the fact that we need to match the exact same image, but in forms of that particular solid blocks is showing. And if you manage to get that puzzle correctly, then you would able to get yourself a reward, which is obviously the heart star itself. So even that's pretty obvious. Alright, let's get one more block left. And there we go. So when you hear that jingle, this means mission has been accomplished. So now we can able to actually reach at the very end of the level, but obviously we do need to dodge as many of those little metallical marble stuff, very much like how it does it in the likes of Toy Story of all things, but in forms of the Mega Drive / Sega Genesis in North America, or especially noticeable in the Super Nintendo and PC version. Now, I can assume these little metallical ball stuff will hurt you, so you just have to watch out for that. So, back into what I was saying about the story in this game, this might actually be the second installment for not only for the actual premise of the actual, I don't know about you, but even then, this might be a sequel to, you know, the Kirby's Dream Land series, but it's also the, well, the second entry of the forms of the Dark Matter trilogy, because you can definitely tell that, you know, the Dark Matter makes a return in this game, but it forms of the main antagonist, so you can definitely tell why, because even though the first game they actually introduced the Dark Matter, but it forms of, well, Kirby's Dream Land 2, and this is actually the second installment where actually introduced to Dark Matter, so, and this might be the third and final time we're going to be seeing Dark Matter until Kirby 64, but until when it gets to the next month or something, so, damn it, I could get myself maximum tomato, because we got ourselves the second boss fight coming up now, so, anyway, so we've got ourselves all of those, heart stars now, so let's go ahead and deal with the next boss in this game, in the forms of the Arcro, which, by the looks of all things, is more likely a shark. And basically, we have to come across into two different segments. There's one thing I haven't mentioned about this during the likes of the last video is that every single bosses can actually contain two different separate parts. like the forms of the 1x's easy mode, but at the same time, in the second half, might actually contain the harder portion of the fight. So even though the first part is pretty simple, we need to basically just reflect the rock right back at Arco, and that's about it. And the second half is basically we have to deal with this particular section, kind of like how it does in your forms of the actual boss fight, in your forms of, well, for the likes of Kirby's Dream Land 2, is the fact that, well, assuming if you have Kind with you, to make this boss really, really easy, but unfortunately, though, I might as well able to die again because of how the fact that I managed to get lower health, so yeah, I died, so that's a bit useless. And to make matters even much more worse than that this time around though, is that unlike how it does it in Kirby's Adventure, well, it might actually act out the same way as in Kirby's Adventure was. You get kicked out of the actual boss room, which even though I found was a little bit more unfair by the looks of all that, so a little bit stingy right there when it comes to that though. So hopefully we'll try that boss fight again, so hopefully I might as well get ourselves a better attempt this time around. If only if I don't have myself my companion with me, so that's a little bit amusing, so what for that some points or another. So oh yeah, for that particular section right there, it's also remarkably similar to Sweet Stuff boss in your forms of Kirby's Dream Land 2, except the fact of the matter is that you're gonna be able to going back and forth, depends on what screen translation is being moving, although except the fact that you can only just blow either the skeleton heads or his million slaves right back at him to deal the damage, as opposed to how it does it for these little stars in the forms of in Kirby's Dream Land 2. So, again, I would have wished if I was trying to bring Kind of Fish with me in this fight, but it makes this boss fight really, really easy. But since we don't have him for the time being, then we have to deal with the hard way. So, there we go. That concludes Ripple Field. So, geez, I will say though, is that the second world is much longer compared to how it does in the first world, actually. Well, it's pretty obvious because it's all mission-based, so you can definitely tell of how the fact that this game is going to be much longer compared to how it does in the previous games, or in this case the previous Kirby games, but I digress. So, we're going to end things off here, folks, so join me next time on Let's Play Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. It's the fact that we're going to be moving on to the third world in the game. So, let's go ahead and clear out those Dark Matter stuff out of the way, and we can hopefully guarantee we can do the same thing for World 3 next time. So yeah, really excited for this point, folks. So yeah, join me next time for that. See you guys then. Later, folks.